In Vancouver, gentrification doesn't usually arrive with a villain twirling a mustache. It shows up as a revitalization banner, a new cafe with $9 drip coffee, a rezoning open house, and quietly but decisively an eviction notice that turns someone's home into someone else's investment opportunity. In the 2025-2026 window, anti-gentrification movements and tenant rights organizing in Vancouver are basically about one core question: who gets to stay when neighborhoods improve? The tenant rights battleground in 2025-2026 rules, loopholes, and pressure points. For most renters, the most visible protection is BC's annual rent increase limit. In 2025, the provincial limit is 3%, and in 2026, it drops to 2.3%. Small numbers on paper, but huge in a city where many renters are already stretched thin. The Tenant Resource and Advisory Center, TRPP, also emphasizes the basics. Increases generally happen only once every 12 months and require proper notice, which matters because informal pressure and landlord shortcuts are part of the real-world problem. But the big fights aren't only about annual increases, they're about displacement. Vancouver's redevelopment pipeline, especially near transit and major corridors, can turn older, relatively affordable rentals into demolition sites or renovation projects. The City of Vancouver points renters to their rights around redevelopment-related displacement, including notice requirements and the ability to dispute certain notices under provincial rules. Anti-gentrification organizing. Development without displacement. Here's where Vancouver gets distinctive. Tenant rights aren't just provincial, they're also shaped by municipal policy tools. Vancouver's Tenant Relocation and Protection Policy, TRPP, is designed to reduce harm when redevelopment displaces renters, and it explicitly supplements the provincial Residential Tenancy Act. In practice, the TRPP becomes a major focus for organizers because it's one of the few levers that can force developers to provide supports like relocation assistance, communication requirements, and in some cases, compensation frameworks, rather than treating displacement as just the market. And the TRPP is especially relevant in Broadway Plan territory, where the city notes enhanced tenant protections tied to the long-term densification and the subway-adjacent growth strategy. The tension is obvious. More housing is the headline, but who benefits first? New future residents or current renters trying not to be pushed out? That tension spilled into public debate through coverage like the TAI, which highlighted that some renters receive stronger protections than others under the Broadway Plan framework, leaving gaps that organizers point to as unfair or structurally displacement-friendly. Movements, not just policies, unions, campaigns, and feed-based activism.
By 2025-2026, Vancouver tenant organizing isn't just meetings in a community hall. It's also newsletters, explainers, Instagram posts, and rapid response campaigns that translate legal language into "here's what to do tomorrow." The Vancouver Tenants Union, VTU, explicitly frames tenant solidarity as a power-building project, not just a service, organizing with neighbors, sharing resources, and confronting real estate capital.
Their social content and posts, including Instagram, function like a real-time bulletin board for tenant politics, mobilizing people faster than traditional media cycles. You also see neighborhood-focused anti-gentrification efforts that blend cultural preservation with housing justice. Save Chinatown YVR, for example, presents itself as a grassroots campaign fighting gentrification in Vancouver's Chinatown, using platforms like Instagram and Substack to rally attention, document threats, and coordinate action. This kind of organizing matters because gentrification isn't only about rent. It's also about community institutions, seniors' access to services, and whether cultural history survives contact with speculative development. The supportive housing flashpoint tenant rights debates in 2025 also collided with the question, who counts as fully protected under tenancy law? A major controversy has been supportive housing and whether or how it should be treated under the Residential Tenancy Act. News coverage flagged advocates warning against exempting supportive housing from the RTA, describing it as a serious risk for already vulnerable tenants. Tenant advocates similarly argued that earlier changes reduced privacy and quiet enjoyment for supportive housing tenants.
Meanwhile, the province discussed steps and processes related to safety and governance in supportive housing contexts, showing how safety can become the language through which rights are narrowed or expanded.
What research adds and what it warns, scholarly work helps explain why this conflict keeps repeating. Research on Vancouver and gentrification highlights displacement and the erosion of social ties as neighborhoods shift, often under livability branding that doesn't equally protect low-income communities. And policy research on rent regulation suggests a messy reality. Rent controls can slow rent growth for covered units, but can also create broader market side effects, meaning tenant movements often push for multi-tool solutions, not a single silver bullet. The 2025-2026 takeaway: right to stay is the real headline. In Vancouver, anti-gentrification and tenant rights aren't abstract ideas. They're a constant negotiation between laws, city policies, development pressure, and organized community resistance. In 2025-2026, the most effective tenant movements are the ones translating policy into power, building by building organizing, public storytelling online, and pushing governments to treat housing as a right to remain, not just a commodity that changes hands. Settings: make the background music fast and energetic. Add subtitles with comic font and the shake effect. Use ISVI as watermark text. Use YouTube audio. Library only use appropriate media. Use my voice for the narrator.